What role did El Salvador's oligarchy play in the Civil War? What role did El Salvador's oligarchy play in the Civil War? To understand this, we need to look back at the history of El Salvador and the power dynamics at play. The oligarchy, often called La Catorce, consisted of 14 families who held immense economic and political power. They owned most of the land, particularly coffee plantations, and controlled key sectors like banking and industry. Their influence extended into politics, where they collaborated closely with the military to maintain their grip on power. From the early 20th century, the oligarchy created a sharp divide between themselves and the majority of Salvadorans, who were mostly poor peasants or laborers. This division led to ongoing social tensions. The oligarchy resisted any reforms that threatened their control, especially land reforms aimed at redistributing property to the landless majority. Their refusal to share power or address social inequality fueled widespread discontent among the population. In 1932, a significant uprising by peasants and indigenous people was brutally suppressed by the military, with the oligarchy's support. This event, known as La Matanza, resulted in thousands of deaths and established a pattern of violent repression against anyone advocating for social justice or reform. After La Matanza, the oligarchy and military continued to work together to silence dissent, often labeling opposition as communist to justify harsh measures. By the 1970s, conditions worsened. The oligarchy's control over politics and the economy remained strong, while the majority of Salvadorans faced poverty and repression. The rise of labor unions, peasant organizations, and movements inspired by liberation theology challenged the status quo. In response, the oligarchy supported the military and paramilitary groups to crush these movements, leading to increased violence and human rights abuses. When the Civil War began in 1979, the oligarchy's role became central. They used their economic power to influence government policy and backed the military's efforts to defeat leftist guerrillas. Their resistance to reform and insistence on maintaining the old order made peaceful resolution nearly impossible. The actions of the oligarchy contributed to the polarization of Salvadoran society and the escalation of the conflict. From a broader Latin American perspective, the oligarchy symbolizes entrenched privilege and resistance to change. Their story reflects a recurring theme in Latin American history, where small elite groups control resources and power at the expense of the majority. The Civil War in El Salvador is remembered not just as a political struggle but as a fight for social justice and dignity, values that are deeply rooted in Latin culture. Understanding this history helps us see how economic inequality and political exclusion can lead to conflict. It also highlights the importance of social movements and the ongoing struggle for rights and representation in Latin America. The legacy of the oligarchy continues to shape El Salvador's politics and society, influencing discussions about reform, justice, and national identity.